False mistress. Somehow time makes it into the afternoon. I trail back to the office, passing students from SOAS, students going to the bookshop to buy books they will actually read, students coming out of successful admissions interviews with their well-dressed, heeled, connected parents. Back in the office, Tom's eyes are slowly crossing in some sort of pornomorphiate coma, and Anne goes off to lunch with a tabloid paper in a received fury. I start blowing up a passport photo of myself to A3 size on the photocopier, just for the wild hell of it. Maybe a phone rings, maybe somebody answers it, maybe not. Tina comes in, goes out. She can't stand Tom, neither can anyone else, including Tom, but he's the one stuck with himself after we all go home. In office, you get to know people too well who you don't want to know at all, including yourself. It's like a chain gang movie where you escape chained to some stranger who your life depends on now, except the office is prison and you don't break rocks all day. And there's no guns or guards in mirror shades or boiled egg eating competition, so it's not like a chain gang movie at all. Sorry, that was rubbish. Someone comes up to the desk, some nice looking girl and a friend. Tom doesn't react, which is a general rather than a particular statement, so I leave the copier and smile in the best way a condemned man can smile from the gallows at the people come to see his execution. Could you tell me where the broadcast lecture is, please? She says with a smile, nice enough. I'm sorry, the what? The broadcast lecture. The broadcast lecture. What is that? It's the broadcast lecture. It's a lecture. They're broadcasting it. I'm really sorry, I don't know anything about that. But, Tom, do you know anything about the broadcast lecture? What? Huh? Never mind. No, sorry, we don't have any information on that. But I want to know where it is. I appreciate that. They said outside to ask you. Well, where's the broadcast lecture? I don't know. It's here somewhere, isn't it? Can't you just tell me? I don't know. She looks at her friend, back at me. We just want to know where it is. I'm not fucking lying, you know. I don't know what you're talking about. There's not a specific number of times you can ask me before I admit I do know. I'm not magically going to reveal where it is if you ask me another 52 times, am I? Now, fuck off, the pair of you, I said in my hindsight world of perfect retorts. That's how it went in the office. Not much happened, and when it did, you wished it hadn't, or just didn't notice it. That about covers Anne and Tina and Tom. Hatred, denial, a lot of drugs. Whatever gets you through the shite. Another time, I pick up the phone and ring LBC, talk radio. Amazingly, I get through and put on hold and wait for a moment while Parkinson finishes off his last caller. Yes, he says, caller on line 1, what have you got to say? Well, I said, just want to point out that if Thatcher thinks Heseltine should stand down from the second round of the leadership election because he got like 40% in the first round in a 2 or 3 horse race, what does that mean when you think that she only got 44% in the general election? Well, said Parkinson, 44% of a 31 million turnout from an electorate of 40 million in a country of 56 million. That's 14 million Tory voters, which means 75% of the people in the country didn't vote for her. Well, said Parkinson, and that's 42 million people who don't support her, 2 million more than the entire electorate. Some majority, democracy, eh? Hey? Well, he said, thanks for your call. What a guy, that Parkinson. Hardly matters what day I describe. A day's a day in an office. There's no difference apart from the distance between them to the weekend. The weekend, that false mistress, waiting for you only to abandon you again and again, but you keep going back. You can't stop thinking about her. I stuff envelopes, answer the phone, look out of the window. I'm settling in nicely, becoming a regular little drone. I have good teachers. Anne snorts from her seat about the latest thing the newspaper has told us to snort about. Tom sits in an opium daze, so still, the only thing moving is his dandruff. Tina is somewhere else. This is it. This is the quicksand, only slower. If you don't do something, you'll never escape. If you do something, you'll sink quicker. An old man comes in wearing a bow tie and some kind of tweed suit, ex-professor costume down to the briefcase, which I'm trying not to call it battered. He comes up to the desk all smiling, a little deferential, it seems, asks for Tina. Anne ignores him, gives me a sideways look. Tom retains his codeine cool. Me then. Sorry, she's out of the office at the moment. Ah, I see. Well, perhaps you could give her something for me. She's expecting it. Yes, of course. You see, I finished the next part, and I'm sure she's waiting to see it. He undoes the buckles on the briefcases, reaches inside. Yeah. Yes, it really is quite interesting. I think you'll find I've made great progress recently. Oh, I'm beginning to not be able to deal with this. He pulls out a folder full of papers, loose sheets of papers. The cover of the folder is covered with scribbles and doodles and formulae, all sorts of rubbish, little drawings. The papers are scribbled on in all directions, different colours. He hands me a sheaf of sheets. I take it and he stands there kind of smiling. He's bald, tall, and doesn't look a bit like a total whack job. Okay, I'll give it to her when she comes in. Thank you, thank you. He glances at Anne, hoping to catch her eye, maybe exchange a word. No chance. She's busy disapproving of celebrities, being outraged by politicians and not sympathising with anyone different from her. You see, I've managed to make a breakthrough, he says to me. He looks straight into my eyes and licks his lips. I nod and smile back. What are you supposed to do? You're welcome to have a read yourself if you like. The friends have been very supportive. Yeah. You see, it's the connection between these things and the relationship of the time-void currency to them. And the Vogons too, of course. I mean, they play an important role intersynoptically. Tina will understand. She's followed my work. I'm very excited. I'm thumbing through the Perfect Retort handbook. No luck. This one's off the scale. What I really need is a phaser on Do One, soft lad. Well, he says, all wistful and everything, I really ought to be going, time and tide and all that. And he gives a little chuckle and turns and leaves, heads back to the back cave. I watch him leave. Thanks, I say to Anne. Tom hasn't moved. Ever. I put the folder in my bag to take home for Daniel. He'll probably love it. So that day and the other days, they just kind of went like that as the summer slipped away. The time passed, the money didn't make much of a difference, because when you're in debt that much, nothing you earn is yours anyway, not for years, so you might as well spend it. I drink with Daniel and his mate Cleary, or alone, after work during the happy hour in an open-fronted bar in Islington, or in the Slug and Lettuce on the other side of Upper Street and among the antique shops at the other end of the 73 bus. I bought CDs and books, thought about changing, didn't. One evening, Paulie said he was moving out in a month or two. He'd bought a flat off his mate in Forest Hill near the museum. I didn't know what to say. How did that happen? Next day, the office looked more like death row than ever. Sitting behind the desk, people coming in, the phone ringing, stage directions to my life. Anne went on holiday. She spent it painting the bathroom, which almost made me weep. Tina was in the office that week. She never said a word to Tom. He didn't notice. Nobody cared that he didn't, especially him. Anne came back from holiday, outrage intact, and we went back to whatever we were doing before, which was the same thing, only it was before. My time was coming to an end. Term was starting. They wouldn't need me and my whiplash intellect soon. I didn't know how to feel. Didn't exactly belong here, but at least it was out of the rain. That's a metaphor, right? As the work eased off, Tina hardly came into the office, and Anne started on Mein Kampf now she had the time. Tom drifted along on a soft pharmacological breeze. I developed a thing about stealing stationery, began to send myself envelopes full of other envelopes through the college post, addressed to characters from Eastern European literature who happened to be living at my house that week. It didn't help. I still woke up feeling like a cockroach who hadn't turned into a famous Jewish writer. Come the last day, I was there alone. The others had gone for some reason, and I was left to lock up alone. I'd said goodbye to Tina and Anne and Tom, but only two of them registered. I turned off the photocopier, wrote a note for Tina about some call she'd missed, put the loose prospectata in a pile. The sash window was open. When I tried to close it, of course, it was stuck. I had to reach up at full stretch and try and pull it down. It wouldn't come. The hot weather had expanded the wood and it wouldn't come down. The window looked out onto Gower Street, and just then a bus pulled up at the stop outside the university gates. And there I was, vertically crucified, hanging off the window frame like I'm measuring my length against it, staring straight into the eyes of some girl on the 73 bus through 2 panes of glass. We held each other's gaze for the next century or so. Eventually, after running out of myself, I decided to smile helplessly. She looked straight at me. The bus started. She smiled as the bus moved off. out of my line of sight. She smiled, the window came down, and I looked up, left the key with the porters, and went home.